Hello and welcome to another episode of the Best You interview series. It's Gary here, and thank you once again for taking the time to join me. And today I'm delighted to be joined by former police officer and now author, speaker, and coach Brad Carpenter, who's here to talk about his career, the effects that it had on his life, and how that inspired his book, Riding One More Wave. Brad is a 20-year police officer and detective, and during his career, he received 23 commendations and 4 medals of valour. He is also a Chamber of Commerce Citizen of the Year and a surf warrior who now helps others with surf therapy for treating PTSD. Now, I want to just to go back very quickly before I get a chance to thank Brad for joining me and talk about what the commendations and Medal of Valour are. They sound very fancy, and I was very intrigued to find out what they were. And a commendation is the captain's award to a member of the force or an employee or a private citizen who performs an act or duty in a manner showing dedication and service above what is normally expected or required by the department. To get one of them, I think, would be a big deal. To get 23 of them is absolutely incredible. The Medal of Valor must be nominated by it said in my research the CEO, which I would imagine would be the chief of the department or of that particular force or unit. I'm not sure what the designations are. Then recommended by the Valor Review Board and then cited by the Attorney General. So again, one of them would be a fantastic element of your career. To receive 4 of them on top of the 23 commendations is absolutely phenomenal. I'm so fascinated by this, and I can't wait to hear a little bit more about that. Brad, thank you very much for taking the time to chat with me today.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. Look forward to our conversation.
Yeah, me too. So when we were chatting prior to recording, you had a very interesting story to tell about how intentional being a police officer was to your overall career. And I would love to hear a bit more about that. So can you tell me the story of how you became a police officer in the first place?
Well, it's kind of one of those accidental tourist type of things. I was in California. I was teaching high school, but it was a difficult year. They had laid off, they ended up laying off over 10,000 teachers due to some rollbacks in the entire state. And so every semester I was getting laid off and then hired back. But, the writing was on the wall that career as a teacher wasn't a good idea. And for long term success, I had a friend who was going over to take the civil service exam in Oakland and asked me for a ride. We were both living in San Francisco at the time. And drove him over, and I thought I was going to go to a coffee shop. And while I waited for him, then I found out, well, I might as well just take the test with him just for experience, because maybe I want to be a firefighter down the road or something. Who knows? Ended up taking the test, and when I turned in my paperwork, they graded it right there and said, "Can you come down the hall?" Scheduled me for an interview like within 15 minutes, and I did an interview. And depending on the background check, polygraph, and such, they offered me a job on the spot practically. And it was, Oakland Police Department back in 1981 was not looked upon as a safe opportunity. So I then had to go home to my new wife and open up what I thought was a good bottle of wine. Looking back, it's not a good bottle of wine, but over a bad bottle of wine, tried to tell her that, hey, guess what I did today?
Surprise, surprise. How did she take the news?
She was a little shocked, but she ended up being very supportive. But it was a change of pace from, hey, I married a high school teacher who wants to take his pre-law LAS SATs eventually, and now he's an Oakland cop. What the heck?
Yeah. So incredible. Then, as you mentioned, about the reputation of the Oakland Police Department, like how did your introduction to the police and the policing industry, if I could use that term, it's probably not the right term of reference, but the policing, craft, how did that differ from the classroom, and what were the biggest aha or shocking moments that you started to kind of realize, wait a minute, this is a lifestyle change.
I was quickly within the first few minutes that I realized I was possibly in over my head. I grew up kind of, I don't want to use the word entitled, but I grew up as a white male. Um, my family, my dad was a career military officer. So, we were comfortable, never had any problems as far as where we're going to sleep, what are we going to eat, what am I going to wear? No real life worries. I grew up with three older sisters, and those girls ruled every neighborhood we were in. So I never had a fist fight until I got on the streets of Oakland. So I looking back, I guess I can use the word that I was probably pretty darn sheltered and
Yeah.
didn't have a whole lot of real world life experience when I walked onto the streets of Oakland.
Yeah. And that journey, you then start to see and experience things in life that you've just never seen before. Even if you hadn't led, to your term of reference, a sheltered life, there's just things that you see as a beat cop, assuming you were a beat cop in the beginning, that you just have never even contemplated, maybe possibly seen in the movies, read about in a newspaper or something like that. Can you describe some of the things that were that kind of more shocking for you?
Well, yeah, I mean, for a kid who never even had a fist fight to go out there in East Oakland and see the level of poverty and how they're living and the level of violence was just an extreme difference. And, we went from, just, we were the murder capital of the world for a short, brief period there, and didn't get much better. But people hurting and killing and fighting over what we would think was trivial, just the violence was just extreme. The San Francisco Chronicle newspaper did a study that kind of blew me away, but they said that a black male between the ages of 18 and 20 had a better chance of survival in Vietnam at the height of the Tet Offensive than a weekend in East Oakland. That kind of tells you the level of violence. And when you're out there, the black children were not looking at, hey, I want to grow up and be a teacher or a firefighter or this or that. They just wanted to grow up and have that chance of just growing up. So it was a life change. And I needed to find a way for how does this white kid from the burbs interact with these people and earn their trust. So that was one of the first challenges, besides just learning a way, as you'll see in the book, some people might say creative ways to combat the crime that was out there, but also creative ways to sort of embed myself in the community. And one is I was, and still am, I have no jump shot right now, but I was an avid basketball player.
Mhm.
And if anyone knows about Oakland, Oakland is, next to New York, maybe the finest place for street basketball.
Mhm.
We have so many NBA point guards,
Yeah.
uh, Gary Payton, Jason Kidd, so many great NBA athletes came out of Oakland, but so many greater ones never even got out of high school. They're just, but on the streets. So I showed up one day on my day off to start playing basketball and got myself into playing basketball on days off, and finally got some of my cohorts. And we had basically an Oakland police team playing out in the middle of East Oakland and Sunset Park playing basketball. And that was one way to earn the trust.
How did you come up with that idea? Was it something that you just observed, something you just on a whim? How strategic was that idea for you?
Well, I think a lot of it was just my stupid stubbornness. That park was on my beat, and I felt like when I wasn't watching my beat on my off time, that it was getting worse, and yeah, so I wanted to spend as much time on that beat as I could. And I grew up playing basketball. I loved basketball. If I was 2 more inches taller, I might have made it. But at 6'1", I just topped out. But and I felt that was the gift at the time that I had, is how am I going to relate to this guys? And obviously, there was no way I'm going to relate to them on our shared life experiences. So the only way I can relate to them is, a hard drive or a hard rebound, and we'll figure this out on the basketball court. But yeah, those first few games were rough. Um, you can't call fouls because that just would make you look wimpy. So
Right.
there was a few days I was going home and stopping at a service place and buying some Motrin or Advil, or I got body checked a few times.
Yeah, that's such a brilliant example of meeting them where they are, and speaking their language, living their life, and doing something that you have mutual interest in, as you go forward. So then, in terms of, you explained there's occasion where you have to get yourself prepped for driving home, with some painkillers or such. It has to have been a heavy load that you're carrying in terms of the responsibility for your job and then the emotional and psychological impact that it has on you. How did that manifest itself into your your demeanor at home, your life away from the beat?
Yeah, and it definitely you carry it home. Um, One of the things, statistics I saw, that is a your average person will handle 2 to 3 traumatic events in their lifetime. A person who works the streets of a city the size of Oakland could experience up to 260 traumatic events in a 10-year period. So, they say the badge is an all access badge. It just opens up the whole world. You can see everything, but you see a lot of things that you can't unsee and wish you had never seen. So that might be the purpose of this book, is how do you handle that stress? When you're 21, 22, you think, okay, let's stop at the bar, play some pool, throw some darts, drink a pitcher of beer before I go home. And I think almost every young 20-year-old something does that. Um, but that's not a great way to relieve stress. So you need to come up with different coping skills.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, and in terms of that, it's a great segue into what was a pivotal moment that for you that led to your transition from pitcher of beer, a couple of games of pool, shooting the breeze with your colleagues to this is not actually serving me. This is not helping me be a better human, a better cop, a better husband, a better, father, sibling, son, whatever it looks like. Was there something pivotal that happened, a moment that you can recall?
Yeah, definitely. I didn't realize it at the time growing up, but my father was a career military man, and he was one of those ones who, 17 years old, he's fighting in Italy, World War II, and then 18 walks all the way across France, Belgium, makes the jump into Germany. Saw enough in World War II, but then was pulled back and shot up in Korea, on the line in Korea, and then ended up with 2 more tours in Vietnam. So the man saw a lot of combat, but he never really displayed the stress at home. But what I realized many years later was, wherever we were stationed on the East Coast and the South, we always made a trek back to Washington State to visit his parents and my mom's parents and cousins and such. But we always stopped at pools. We always swam. I've been to every beach and every lake with him. It was always in the water. And I wish I had, my dad died about 10 years ago before I had this conversation with him, but I realized that I think the water was his source of release. Um, and I didn't realize all this, but I had a great wife at the time. She passed away some 15 years ago now, but she understood. Um, there was many nights where I just sweat through the sheets. It looked like somebody dumped a bucket of water in the sheets. We're trying to sleep, just way too many demons coming into my dreams. And I came home one afternoon, and she had gone in the backyard where we had this 5 foot water fountain in our little landscaped area, emptied it, dragged it through the house, put it in the bedroom, filled it back up, attached it. So when I came in, I heard this water fountain going. I'm going, what the heck is this? And she said, hey, let's just try it. And I slept like a baby that night. And ever since, and currently, I have a water fountain in my bedroom. And didn't know the term at the time, but did a little research into it of late. And it was called acoustic camouflage.
Mm.
And acoustic camouflage is not the same as a white noise. White noise is just something in the background. You have a fan, whatever you have on. That's a using as a block. But acoustic camouflage is something that is soothing and can also be healing. And so even at that time, every day off I got, I was shooting down to Half Moon Bay to get in the water. And Half Moon Bay was 45 minutes to an hour from Oakland, but that was my jam, was throwing the board in the back of my Jeep, putting the dog in the Jeep, and taking off and going down to Half Moon Bay. And then I realized that there was just something about sitting on a board, paddling out in the water, having that water rush between you and the board, and somehow that just cleanses you and just takes away the guilt. And I found the water was my coping skill.
Yeah. And was it at that time that you did the correlation between your experiences of the water in the moment and the historical references of the water whenever your dad had the opportunity to stop at a beach, stop at a pool and such? Was that the direct correlation then, or was it prior to?
I don't know. I think it was really probably just the last half dozen years where it came to me. At the time that I was in it, that's when I'm just paddling out and I'm arguing with God and saying, why this, why this, why do you allow that? Having those discussions while you're facing the horizon, sitting on the board, and it just seems like that was my church. I can go out there and yell at God, and was more comfortable out there than trying to go inside a church and tell a priest some of the horrible things I had seen the night before. It was my release. And when you're in that moment, you probably don't realize that, this is also a healing moment, but
Yeah.
it, it served very, very well for me.
Yeah.
And then that's when I started talking to some of the other cops and trying to get, carpools that were running down to Half Moon Bay, and did get another half dozen guys who were pretty much into somehow getting in the water and doing something.
Yeah. So then how does that manifest itself? You're having tremendous success, you're having healing moments, you're having, the ability to cleanse, as you said. How does that manifest itself into a book?
Um, yeah, I showed somebody some of these stories once, and I asked them what they thought, and they said, "Oh, heck no, you don't want to." You don't want to have these stories out there.
Mhm.
Um, and then I showed it to a second person several years later, and they said, yeah, they wanted more. And so I kept writing, kept writing, kept writing, kept writing, and eventually we had a book. And we did the. I had a difficult moment where I was trying to figure out how to express some of these things, because I didn't want people coming back and asking me questions and saying, well, who was with you on this and who was with you on that, and try to explain. So my mentor at the time says, well, just write it in third person and change a few names, and that way you protect the guilty. So we changed a few names and wrote it in the third person, and it seemed to flow a lot easier.
Yeah, I love it. Can you share a powerful story from the book that highlights the impact of surfing therapy to someone that is experiencing or has experienced trauma?
Since I've written this book and we've come out, and it's blown me away that yes, I've gone out a few times with guys, and we it's not like we're out there surfing taking every wave that we can that's 100 feet. Sometimes we're just sitting on the board, just watching the waves go by, but just sitting on the board, having that water just come through and rinse, and talking to these guys. And so many of them are just in tears as they're going through it. And it's such a release point for them to talk and discuss. And just there's something about the healing part of being in the water. Um, you know, I'm not trying to say it's like, baptism by wave, but it's pretty darn close, where I think you can go out there and just cleanse yourself of a lot of guilt and a lot of worries. And it just seems to work. You've got to find what works for you. The water therapy, the acoustic camouflage, obviously that can't work in middle America unless you got some great lakes. But it's hooking back up with nature. So even wherever you are, if it's a long walk in the woods with a great companion dog, a bike ride, something you're doing, riding one more wave could be just, running one more mile or something like that. Or one of the things that I reflected back on is that during the academy days, you have somebody come in, talk to all the young guys before we go out with our testosterone. And they say, you got to have coping skills. And one guy said that his coping skill was gardening. And I thought that was possibly the most wimpiest thing I'd ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
It's like, really, dude? We're supposed to be throwing darts and doing manly things. Gardening is not it. But then I found out that I'm damn near now possibly a master gardener. There's nothing better for me than to put my hands in the dirt. And, with all the marijuana grows and drug deals that we've taken down, I got to speak to a lot of great marijuana cultivation experts. And I've learned all the tricks of how to be organically getting rid of pests and insects. And I think I have some darn good gardens. So gardening is just a great release.
Yeah, as you say, finding something that works for you, and it might not just be one thing. There might be a multitude of things depending on who you are, where you are, literally and physically at a given point in time. And back to the kind of surfing therapy, and you got an opportunity to bring other people along. So that's when you start to realize there's something to this. You have mentorship skills and abilities, you have coaching skills and abilities, you have the ability to be able to empathize with others. How did that manifest itself into your performance as a cop? Do you feel that it increased your performance, obviously with the accolades and such that you've experienced over your career? There's something to it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it increased, but it definitely kept me in the game, and it kept me sharp as far as, instead of rolling into the bar after every shift and then rolling home, I was coming back a little bit more refreshed and ready for the next day. So I don't think it gave me any increased abilities, but it kept me in the game and kept me focused and kept me driven. And, the stubbornness of I'm a very competitive person, and I felt we're losing the war, and I didn't want to lose the drug wars.
Yeah. Yeah. So then, in terms of you mentioned the dog, and coming along with the dog, how how crucial was the dog in terms of your relationship and the experiences that you shared together in the overall therapy sessions that you had at the Bay? How did that partnership influence your overall recovery and the work that you've subsequently done with others?
That was great. He was a rescue dog that we rescued each other. You see those bumper stickers. We I recovered him in a operation where we did a search warrant for drugs, and there was two large dogs, a Doberman and a Labrador, were the parents. Can't remember which was which, but they had a litter of puppies, maybe six puppies, and called the animal control out because everybody in the house is going to jail. Someone needed to take care of the dogs, and then as I'm leaving, talking to the animal control guy in the parking lot, and he goes, "Yeah, we're probably going to put all these puppies down tomorrow morning." And I was going like, "Oh." So I called up my wife and I said, "Can I get a black one or a brown one?" And she said, "Get a brown one." So I brought this brown puppy, and at the time, I grabbed a children's shoebox from the scene that we were taking all the drugs out of. They had a empty little shoebox, and I put this dog in a shoebox because he was that size.
Mm.
And I swear it just like overnight, that dog kept growing, but he got up around 95 pounds,
Wow.
just a huge monster of a dog,
Yeah.
and quickly became my best friend. And he loved surfing.
Yeah.
So I'd get on the board and I'd tie him to my ankle and on a long lead, probably about a 50-foot lead. And we would be in the water all day and he was on the lead and we just had a great time.
Fantastic memories. So, what advice would you give to someone who is struggling with PTSD, who might be hesitant to try somewhat unconventional therapies like surf therapy?
Give it a shot. I think if anybody, I'm hoping almost everybody in the world has been close to a beach at one point and just found that, that day that I was at the beach last year, 2 years or 3 years ago when I was in Hawaii and had to walk along the beach, I can remember what that feeling of sand on my bare feet, that what that released inside me, the sounds of the ocean. Give it a try. I mean, I don't even know how many thousands of apps there are on the phone that has to do with sleep, but just try that. Just put a, little sound of a bumbling river or something on your phone and see if that helps calm you down just a tad. And if that does, then, investigate it further. But what works for you? Dogs are outstanding partners as long as you get the right one. I mean, don't get one that's going to cause more stress. And generally, it's the larger, medium sized dogs that are calm that
Yeah.
can give you a calming influence, not the ones that are going to be barking every time the wind blows
Mhm.
and set you off. But there's something about a dog that, they're non judgmental. A dog will just want to be with you. And they say that, a dog brushing up alongside you or pushing his nose into your leg or however they do, it's supposed to release some sort of dopamine in your brain. That's a calming influence. So um, pets can be walks in the wood, just taking time to just, walk,
Yeah.
breathe, um, breathe and relax.
Yeah.
Recognize the stressors in your life. Stress is part about stress is life. You can't escape stress, but there's positive stress and there's negative stress, and kind of look at which is which, and which stress invigorates you and which stress is not. Try to stay away from sitting on the couch with a six-pack of beer and watching WWE or whatever you want to watch on TV. I don't think anybody has found that watching TV is a positive way to reduce stress.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. As you say, give it a go. If nothing else, you might be able to eliminate something that doesn't work for you while searching for something that does.
Right.
Yeah. Excellent. This has been great. Before I let you go, where can people find you and get more information about the book?
It's the title of the book is the title of the website, radiumonemorewave.com. And there's ways to contact me through that website by email and phone.
Yeah, wonderful. This has been absolutely fantastic, Brad. Thank you very much. I feel like we just scratched the surface of a life, of a career well lived, and of the good that's come from that. And I look forward to connecting with you again. I can't thank you enough for taking the time to chat with me today.
All right. Thank you, Gary. I appreciate the time.